All right, today we're going to try to take a look at the U9, but three different things. Three different sections to this video, I guess. One is the different formats and how to gut them. The goal is to get them to this stage where it's just the core, and then the second part of the video will be taking apart this core and showing how to fully gut the plug inside. And then the third step will be to show how you could go about and progressive pin the wafers in here. The first thing you're going to want to do is the inside of these, they usually use graphite to lubricate. So you're probably going to want to put down some paper towel on your work surface. So starting with the first format. Now I only have one of these and it's really long, you can see there. And the channel lock pliers don't reach down into there, but I haven't tried just simply removing these screws. If you have special longer whatever these pliers are called, C-clip pliers, maybe you could take this apart. I think it might work anyways, because if we remove these two screws here, you should be able to pull this inside piece out like that. Once you get it here, and again, I haven't taken this apart, but it looks a lot like the other ones. You should be able to just fold the two pieces apart like that. And you can see this clip here, when I take it over, is stuck on there. Generally what you want to do is keep track of the pieces as you take them off and then go in reverse. Lay them out to the side in the order that I removed them. Okay, and now we got to the core of this. Putting it back together, obviously, is just going to be the reverse. So I take it from the outside here and go in. Sorry. And then you want to put these back on. Like that, onto there and onto here. Slide that back into there and screw those two screws in. A little bit of force to get that in there, and the two screws. All right, so that's the first one. Second one is very similar. This one, if you have this particular brand, you probably won't be able to reach the C-clip in there. And what I do is I loosen these up and I make these as long as I possibly can. The problem with making these longer than they're supposed to be is that when you try to grab something, these things will often like go sideways from each other. They'll like torque on you. You know, this is longer than they're intended to be. But by making them this long, at least you can reach that C-clip there and you can get it out. This one doesn't have the screws on the side, so you can't go and unscrew it and just pull that whole thing out. You have to remove that C-clip and take the key out. The key is going to stop you from removing this. I haven't gutted this one yet either, but I've gutted ones like it. Again, keep track of the order that I pulled these out in until I get to here and pull the rest of this out. It's got a ring on top. And there we go. Now, if you were to dump this, nothing else comes out. And then we're at the plug. So, or the core rather. I'll put that back in reverse. Now the tricky part, this clip, it has two little wings on it and they have to go into holes inside. So generally I'll put one side in like that, and then I'll use the pliers to try to get the other side in, or get it relatively close to getting in. Got it most of the way down, and then what I'll do is I'll just push on it with something. That's reassembled. The third one is very similar as well. This one, it's a little different. You see it only has like one of these wings on one side for some reason, and it has the screws that we saw on the first one. You know, I took the C-clip off before, but I haven't tried it just now, taking the screws off first. Okay, it doesn't want to come. Maybe that's pushing too hard outward for you to take that off. So take the C-clip out. Oh, sliding off. I should readjust these pliers to be short again. See, I'm having a hard time because they're longer than they're intended. Let's try it from this side. Ooh, come on, that was pretty far. I've been stuck on these clips before, like 50 times. So I'm gonna go adjust this and I'll be back. Okay, I've adjusted these and hopefully you can see how much shorter they are. instead of sticking all the way out. And hopefully that'll make a difference to removing that. A lot more control. All right, so that's the first one out, so I'm going to put that over there. Just have something to lift up on the different pieces. There's a bunch of different pieces in this one. And they need to line up right. You're going to see that there's these two little wings here, and they line up to two little cutouts on the washer. You see these little cut areas. So you want to make sure those line up. This inner piece here, you want to put it so that part is up and the deep part faces down. You got this ring around the outside. That's what fits onto this washer like that. And then you got another one of those washers underneath that's the same kind of shape. Should be able to dump, maybe not dump it out. Oh, it's blocked. It's blocked by these screw holes that I've already unscrewed. So when we pull this out, and that only has the Miwa on one side, okay? So when you have the Miwa on just one side, that's the top. The sidebar on these always faces down. All right, so then what I like to do with this is take the top off. I'll put that up top and the bottom off, and put down. Okay, this washer can come out now. You could also put these in order like this, but I'll just put these over here because they're kind of obvious. And I haven't taken this one apart, this particular one. Okay, it does come apart. And that comes out there. There are ones of these that have a bunch of these little, almost like pins. It has 2 on the front and then 4 coming in from different areas here. So with those, you got to put those pins in before you can drop this in. I don't know what purpose they serve. They're like little weird pins. And we're at the part where we have the core. So you can just put that back in there, rebuild it. Here's the sidebar. That's going to face the side without the logo. It goes on there. That side. There we go. And don't forget this one. It's not going to be able to drop back in there because it's going to get blocked by these indents from the screw holes. So you want to drop that in there like that. And maybe while you have this out, it might be easier for you to line this up on there. You don't have to. You could put it on after, but it might be easier for you to line up with that particular washer there. Get that on. And then we got to drop this whole thing. Some of them also have a little metal plate. You just put the metal plate there. This one doesn't have it. Drop that down into there. And that piece that I put in there to line up popped off anyways. So got to get that into those slots. Drop this this guy in to the middle. Probably push things around again. So just align it afterwards. You got to get that into the slots of the washer. Kind of like that, yep. Now this washer, you got to get the wings to go into its slots. Kind of push it around until it gets in. Is that in? Like that. Fat washer on top. And you can see there's a slot there that the edge of that's going to go into like there. This wall is getting in the way. So maybe what I want to do is drop this side in first. Like that. And try it the other way around so that wall doesn't get in the way. And if you can't push all the push all the way down like this, you're gonna come in and just push down on it until it gets into there. If you end up like this, in this case, it looks like this washer is crooked, and the reason that happens is because the washer that has the slots on it below it has gotten misaligned. So you got to take it back apart. And it looks like this one here is lined up right, which means that it's not lined up right underneath. Oh, you know what? Is a good thing. Put these screws in before you go any further. I forgot that. Put these screws in. They'll help line things up better. And then proceed. Okay, so we got those in. Now everything looks like it's lined up better already. So it might have been something with that. We're going to put it this side first. And now do this part again. And it goes in much better. All in. Like that. Okay. Next format. Kind of repetitive, right? But I don't know which format you have or which format you're going to get. So I'm going to cover them all. This one is easy. Just take that ring off. right? No, and then you just kind of lift up. It's got an extra washer here, and then you got the plug. Again, sidebar is this piece sticking out. You want it to be on the opposite side of the logo. There is another washer in here that goes to the front. It has a ridge on it, so make sure that ridge is facing down when you put it in there. And you just load that in, put the washer on, reload this C-clip back in there, like that. So that one's done. Next one. These are my least favorite. I like a lot of the ones that are like this, but this particular one, particular style, has this clip here that holds this outer housing on. And what you need to do is use a screwdriver under here, perhaps, and try to lift up on it. And they have to come out at the same pace. So this one's sticking up a little bit on this side. You got to push it down to get the other side up a little, and then this side up a little. They do get looser over time, but they can be quite a pain in the butt, and you can stab yourself a lot of times while doing this, because that's a very little lip that you're trying to get under there. So a lot of times you're trying to push to get under the lip, and you pop off and you stab yourself. So be careful. You just keep working, and then once it gets up high enough, you can kind of work underneath here on both sides until you get it all the way out. Now when you put it back in, these longer pieces, they go into these holes top and bottom, not to the sides. Okay, so the sides are these channels where the front housing goes into, like that. Okay, and there's a spring that goes over there. Now you're basically kind of like this other guy here. You just have one C-clip to take off. If I can get on it, there we go, C-clip to take off. And just like the other one, you got this washer, and then you got the plug, and there's usually, sometimes there's a washer up front. This one doesn't have one. Again, logo, sidebar goes downward, so that when you look at it, it's like smiley. Okay, let's put that on there, put this guy back in. There we go. Now to put it back together, you want your spring. And this thing goes in those two channels on the side. The longer piece is not in the channels on the side. And you push out. There we go. Now this next one is a lot like this, but you don't have that annoying piece on the back. It's this guy. The only problem is that you can't take this outer housing off of this one because it's blocked by the solid brass. The way this outer housing comes off is out the front, but it's crimped down on the sides. So this is basically a permanent fixture. So some people might like this because you can take the outer housing off and then just have this nice little thing to pick. But then you might as well get this format instead. This format here is the same as this, basically, without the outer housing, right? Same. This one though, you know, same deal. Just take the C-clip off. You pull that out. There we go. That one's done. Make sure you put the sidebar down the right way, put the C-clip in. And that's basically all the formats. So that's everything to try to get to the plug. Oh, sorry, got one more. It looks similar again, but this time it's just a little bit different on the back. It's got like this screw, so you're gonna screw it in, I guess, when you install it. It's got a bigger C-clip. It looks a little bit different, but it's the same. You just take this out, lift that out. Got a ring there. The problem with this is it's got these like inner pieces here. See these two inner pieces, and when you have them in there, like, it can be really fiddly to try to get that piece in, but it goes in. You can take them out, you can take them out, and you could put them around your core if you want, and then drop the whole thing in together. Whatever works for you. This thing has these pieces poking out on it, so you want to make sure that those go into the slots on the sides. So there's a slot there, and there we go. That's that guy. Actually, he's not fully in the one slot, so it's got to just rotate it a little, And there we go. Now we can look at the plug on the inside and how to fully dismantle that. So I have this plug here. I should have showed you the difference between mastering and unmastering. This one is a mastered one, so maybe that's a good example. All the other ones were unmastered. And look at this key. It's only got cuts on one side. The other side is just all max lifts. And to top it off, there's only actually one wafer that is on the other side. So on the right side, I guess there. So to take this part, all of them are like this once you get it out. So you're going to want to remove this clip. There's a little silver clip here. Now you could either remove it with this, or you can take these two screws off and then all the pieces will fall off. But you don't need to take these two screws off for the whole gut. I might be lying. We'll see in a minute. But I don't believe you have to take them off for the gut. You might want yourself a pinning tray with circles for all the wafers we're going to take out. Now once you take that off, there's two pieces here. A ring and like this thing. When you're putting back together, you're going to want to put this piece in first and then the ring over top. The reason is if you put this on top and then you try to put this in, it's not going to go, the pieces have to go under the ring and you're not, yeah. So when putting it back together, the ring goes on after. So put this on, then that, then that. Now, this is what most of the picking videos are going to show you. They're going to show you this part to show you the inside. So you just put the key in. That's gonna you're not gonna be able to pull it straight out. You can see a wafer across here, and that drops into a slot on the sidebar that stops it from coming out. But if you turn it, that's gonna drop the sidebar into the plug, and you'll be able to pull it out. You're gonna want to put your thumb over the sidebar so it doesn't go flying and you lose those tiny springs. I think this thing is bidirectional. Yeah, you can use it either way around, so you don't need to really keep track of which side you're using. Now, the sidebar there, you can see there's that cut on the top, and that's what stops it from coming out. It's got a little finger there and a little finger here, and those are where it goes into the two springs. So there's a spring up here that goes into this black spacer, and one back here in the silver spacer. So those two spacers are going to always go in those locations, and that's going to be important for when you want to reassemble it. But if you look at the side here, they're fatter. Okay, so it's fatter there, so that's always going to go there. If you do progressive pin it, and I'll talk about this when I do that, you're going to want to have that black piece. You don't have to have the other spacers, but you need the black spacer because you need somewhere to put this spring into to work with the sidebar. Now at this point, if you've taken this apart a few times, these side pieces that hold all the wafers in are going to get loose. But on a new one, these things are not going to come off easily. They've been like crimped in. So what you need is like a flathead screwdriver, and if you come along the side right here, you see, maybe we should zoom in a bit and get some light. How's that? Is that better? You can come in right here on the piece, and you can pry up right there. Okay. Mine are pretty easy because I've been taken apart a few times. But if you pry under there, you can see that this piece is going to come up. Okay. Like that. And unfortunately, you can't just have it like this because the front facers aren't going to be able to get out. So you do need to take it off the front too. And you should be able to go under here, and it's not going to come off that easy. You're going to have to pry from the side, pry from that side. But like I said, this one's been taken apart a few times, so that comes off. Now that one's come off, you can see there's one of the springs, all these springs along. When you're reassembling it, you got to have all these underneath. So what you want to do is just start here and then just kind of slide around like that, and that'll get all the springs underneath. Okay, rather than try to put this here and then try to push all the springs under as you're going, just take it and slide it around, and boom, they're all underneath. Okay, then you want to go ahead and take the other side off too. Again, you're not going to be able to do it with your fingernail, but this one's been taken apart a few times. At this point, don't let go. Don't let go. Okay, it'll come off and everything will be bad. It'll be not nice. And the front doesn't come off so easy because I don't know. The front hasn't been off as many times as the back, or something. So let's take the front off here. Kind of wedge that under there, and there we go. These are the same as each other, but because I am kind of anal, I like to keep them on the same side they came from. All right, so now we have this whole thing. The way you want this is you want the front of the plug to face upward. You can see the levers can swing out like that. They're only supported by one post on the top. Now that I have the plug up this way, okay, let's move that up. You can take the top faceplate off, okay, put that in your first slot. Here we go. Now we have wafers. They're all in these two bars here, okay, and at this point, you can just start removing wafers. Just grab them usually by the spring like that. And make sure you keep track of the orientation, because this one right here is going to interact with the key, the cuts on the left side of this key here. If you flip this over, it's now going to interact with the other side of the key, and it's not going to work anymore unless you have the key cut the same way on both sides. So I keep it like that. The next is a spacer into the next slot. Then we got another wafer or lever, wafer, I guess, spacer, another one. Now the big fat spacer, okay. This one, like I said, you're going to use it. You're going to always use that spacer if you're progressive pinning, and we'll progressive pin this a little. And you can see every single one is coming off this with a spring to the left, because this particular U9 might be considered the easiest one in the world, maybe, I don't know. But you can see they're all on the same side, so you don't need to flip your pick back and forth until you get to this point. Now this one's kind of annoying. This one's a max lift, but it's the other side, so not a big deal. Spacer. Hey, so the whole thing came off because I just grabbed the stick or whatever it is. Take that off. My stick fell over, but that's in there. And then the final, yeah, because I did it weird. The final one here. There we go. So that's all 9. These sticks, they have a little pinhead on there, so that you can't take them off the back side. You can only take them off the front side, because that thing there is going to block these from coming off. See? So that's why I took it off the key side of the lock. And they go into these holes down here. I don't know why, or if that's in all of them, but I don't know why that's bent. And I straightened it out before, and I put it all back together, and it's bent again. So something about this lock wants that to be bent. Maybe this particular lock, or U9s in general. I don't know. I haven't gutted a different one. I've only gutted this one. So the two posts are different thicknesses. This one has a slot in it for whatever reason. That's where it bends over. But the fatter post goes more into the middle of the piece, and then the skinny post goes up top. Okay. There's 2 holes there. So progressive pinning. You probably want to progressive pin from the back of the lock, but you don't have to. You just have to put I'll just put a few of them in. Put that in there. Let's just say I'm going to start with 3. Okay. So I put that, just reverse of taking it apart. So that's one of the levers, or the wafers, or whatever you want to call them. Number 2. And then number 3 is on the other side. And when you're putting these back together, it looks like there's 2 holes up here. One is just where the spring is curled into. The one to the right of it, or if you're this side, to the left of it, right, is the one that's going to go on the post, not the one that the spring is curled around. I don't even know if the spring curled around can fit. It cannot, so you can't really screw up. And when you put it in, when you put that on, the thing is going to wrap around this center post. You see that? So it doesn't matter. Even if no matter where you put it on, you just swing it around, it's going to go around that post. All right, so let's say this is what we were progressive pinning it to. We could put the spacer on top just to give it more structural integrity, right? Might be a good idea. And no matter what, you're going to need the fat spacer, okay? So let's put that one on. So put the fat spacer on, because you need that, because it has that little hole on the top that the spring goes into. So now we got all these on here. We're also going to need the front face of the whole lock, okay? And that's got 2 holes in it, and you just got to put these 2 pins into those holes. Now the kind of flared outside goes up on both sides, but just start with one side, and attach it to the front. You might need some percussive persuasion here to get it to attach. So basically, if you grab the whole thing and you put the front on and the back, you can do the back too, but I like the front like that. You're going to see that all these spacers at the bottom are lining up, but the big fat one, of course, is too low. So you're going to need to go ahead and slide that up while holding it horizontal so it doesn't slide back down by gravity to the right spot. And so it can be a little bit fiddly. You see, it can be fiddly, but just a little patience and you should be able to get it all back together after a few minutes, maybe. It can take you time. Oops. You can see you can take a bit of attempts to get this all down. So that's a little bit tricky. Now, because we only have wafers towards the back, there's a little bit of a trick. Normally you would have to do it just like this, but since there's only wafers towards the back, we can attach these front ones first, like this, and like this. Because there's nothing in the front, these actually spread out far enough to get around those. The front ones is not going to spread far enough to get around a spacer up front. So unfortunately, if you have the whole thing, you're going to need to you can put just one side on, is what I'd recommend, and get it on there, and then add the other side. Actually, maybe that's what we'll do. All right, so we'll go with one side, just like what we would do for a full. And you got to get these two, I just rub it back and forth until I get the two posts into their holes, or at least one of them, and then I'll take it and I'll line the other post up into the hole like that. There we go. So now that I got this thing attached, it's a little bit easier to work with, right? If you drop it, that kind of sucks. All right, so got them all lined up, and now what I'll do is I'll take the fat wafer and I'll slide it up into position there. Make sure all the other ones are down low. Gravity drop it down because I'm trying to show the camera, and then just push down on it. There we go. So we got all of them in. Got the bottom ones in. That's all in, okay? Now the problem is, in doing that, you might have one of the springs not be lined up right, and I already popped it back out again. So you need all these springs to be underneath this. So if I did it like that, you see that spring there is not under, so it's not. You'd have to do it again and get that spring under like that, right? And then slide the fat wafer up like that to the right position, and that's all in. Now you got to get the other side on. It can be very fiddly, so this is obviously not how the lock was supposed to be assembled. Without, if you have it fully populated, everything's going to line up nicely, and it's a little actually less fiddly to do with everything in there. So that looks good, except I didn't worry about the spring, so I'm gonna have to take it off and then get the spring under like that, and there we go. Now you can see that that didn't slot in there, so I was able to push it, but you might just put it down and give it a little percussive persuasion and get that in. Over time, it will get weaker, and these parts in the back, see, they just pop right off. You see that? So I haven't really looked into how to make that tighter again so it doesn't pop off, because it looks like they probably took some sharp bit and then they pushed right there with a hammer, and that caused a crimp there, but removing it has kind of filed that down. And then at this point, we got a few minutes left until I have to restart the recording. You put your two, well, actually before we put all that in, put your key in, and that's going to line up your wafers. And now you can put your springs in like that. One of them, two of them, and then we got this. And then I'll probably take it apart again, and I'll show you putting all the wafers back in. And like that, put that in there. And there we go. We have a, and then you put these bits in and you put it all back together. But here we have a basically progressively pinned 3 wafer U9. All right, I'll reset the camera and we'll go ahead and put it fully back together. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it fully back together. Put that in. Take it back out again. You can see my thing's already looking to pop apart. Yours probably won't do that. Take the sidebar off. sidebar springs, and we can take that key out. And you want the front to be facing upward. And I'm going to take at least one side off. I don't know if you have to take both off, but there we go. And this one doesn't want to come off the bottom for some reason. Take your fat wafer out, right? Put it back in the right spot, and just go ahead and reassemble the whole guy. And it should be easier once you have all the wafers and spacers on to put the side pieces on when it's got everything. Because you don't need to worry about lifting that fat wafer up to the right height. It'll just be at the right height. Put everything back on like this. I'm curious if all the U9s have that bend in the post. I should probably take a different one apart. All right, that's all there. I don't know if I have to take that off the front piece. We'll see in a second. Push all my springs down, starting with the harder side, and I'm going to try to rotate it in a little bit just to catch all those springs under it. Where am I? Yeah. Okay. And then I want to get the posts in. So I'm probably going to have to take this side off. Get my posts in first. There we go. Now the whole thing, and you can see it's fiddly. Take this from the top and slide it over those springs so that they're all underneath the piece that I'm using. Let me see, can I do this a little bit trickier, but maybe you can see better. Take it and slide it over all the springs like that, right? That way all the springs are underneath. You can see one spring is not, because that's the one from the other side. What does that sound? Is that, I think that's the front door. And still a little fiddly, but there, all the side pieces are in, right? Now the other side only has the one spring. I have to hold it a little because the whole thing's gonna pop apart again on me. It's because my stuff is so loose. And right, there's just the one spring, this one. But treat it the same. The flared part towards the front. Just slide it down over that. My whole thing's falling apart again, but there we go. Everything is in. No springs sticking out anywhere. I didn't have to remove these back screws at all. Next, get the key in. You can make sure that all your gates line up, but it doesn't matter too much because you're not going to be able to put the sidebar in if your gates don't line up. If they don't line up, then that probably means either you got them out of order or you put one of them in backwards, you know, so it's on the right side instead of the left side, or vice versa. Drop the sidebar into the two springs. I can't see very well. I'm waiting for my new glasses. 2 weeks. And there we go. So that's in there. You can see the sidebar is able to go inside. And it's, I don't know why this is, like, it only unlocks one direction. It will unlock both. But I think everything's so loose in there, I need to put all these bits on there to tighten it up a little bit. Because this U9's been taken apart a fair amount of times. I wouldn't sell this one because it's too fiddly from being taken apart so often. Unless somebody particularly wanted an easy to take apart one. And after you get it to go right one time, then usually it will go after that. And then put it back together, drop everything. Put the extra pieces in here. Just make sure there's the Miwa logo. Get the sidebar on the opposite side. And we're back in business. So that's every format of U9 that I have. There's probably more out there, but that's what I have. And that is how to fully gut, fully reassemble, and even how to progressive pin the Miwa U9. So hopefully that's useful to someone. Thanks.